Well, looks like, yeah.
Convoy, welcome back to Talks with Damanhur. And tonight, I really love to introduce Lanario. Lanario will be the host of this transmission tonight. We will talk about power. We're waiting for the people that are entering into the recording. So waiting for this, I want to remember to the people that we have a channel, we have a website that it's the Damanhur .community, and that we receive many questions. And during the last weeks, we received a lot of questions about power. So tonight we will talk about what is power, where come from, what is the nature of power. I want to introduce you to the people also, Lanario, because it's a very good friend of mine and is one of the person that is traveling all around the world for Damanhur. So Lanario, would you like to present yourself, to say something about you?
Sure. Convoy. So I was born in Russia originally, even though I've never lived there. So I made my way to Damanhur 10 years ago. It's the first time I arrived here. And I think my whole spiritual path and my arrival to Damanhur has been defined actually by this very topic. So it's very interesting that you have invited me specifically for this, because the spiritual path, spiritual school I was following before Damanhur, which has brought me all around the world. So I've lived in many countries around the world, in Yugoslavia, in Australia, in Argentina, a little bit in Europe, Bulgaria. But my whole origin, let's say, of my upbringing has been based around the idea to find the power within, right? To actually understand what it is, learn to cultivate it, and then, of course, learn to use it. In a way, my original teacher's path was built, I think, around exactly that point. And maybe that was one of the research points that brought him to Damanhur too, and me together with him. So after some years of back and forth, coming and going, I decided to stay in Damanhur because I realized that this is a place where I can continue my spiritual research, based on all my past experience, but not only continue, to actually expand it and, more importantly, apply it. So I suppose it became for me as a bit of a platform, a playground almost, if you want to express it in this way, where everything that I've learned, before, I can apply and use for a much greater scope than the one that I've had before. So in that sense, probably I find the way to apply myself, apply my spiritual sense in the matter, in the world of forms.
Wow!
So now I live here in Damanhur quite permanently for the last must be 8-9 years. I'm married to a Damanhurian. I'm, for the moment, the only Russian-speaking person who lives here. But at the same time, I don't even identify myself as a Russian. I always tell everybody I am Damanhurian. So my culture, however, my upbringing, and above all, the language has connected me to the concepts of power and control, with Soviet Union, in which I was born, and then Russia, very much connected to that topic as well.
Yes. I think it's very nice that you touch this point about the power within, so something that comes from inside. I think that the last Tuesday I was hosted by the Italian version of this uh, yes, of this recording, and we were talking about two different kind of power. So the power that come from outside, for example, a population or a religion, something that come from outside that give you the power, and a sort of power that come from inside. The second power, it's is not so easy to found, because you have to do you have to travel within yourself, you have to go inside. That's why we talk about a spiritual path. I want to ask you specifically if you think that you found something inside of you, a sort of power, something that you think is a power, and what is the difference from your perspective about the power within and something that come from other people, from
Yeah.
outside.
So, the first book, which was probably a bit of a reawakening for me that I've read, the spiritual serious book, was Castaneda's, the first three books of Castaneda, which were essentially dedicated to the path of power, to acquiring the power, of finding it. So the teacher of Carlos Castaneda, Don Juan Matus, was essentially teaching him to subdue the internal enemies in order to allow the internal power to come out, and the steps needed for it, like eliminating your ego, deleting your history, combating your fears, etc. So I think encountering that context and combining that with practice, because my previous pre-Damanhur path was specifically focused on exercises, on a discipline of doing something on a regular basis, feeling the energy, learning to understand your body, learning to understand the processes, and thusly learning to control that power which you gradually discover and then develop over time. So for me, in a sense, it was always a very internal concept. Since I always lived, since 10, essentially, since I started my path, I always lived within the context of spiritual school. So my whole life, the school and then university, and multiple degrees and everything was always somehow connected to that spirituality. So I always saw the power games around myself, and as I mentioned, my whole culture was based around it. But I always saw that the power within is the one that truly makes the difference. So my teacher was using one slogan, which was actually not his, which maybe you, Gnomo, will remember. Pirelli, the tire manufacturer, 1994, had a slogan which said, "Power is nothing without control." Right? So the amount of energy which you may have, so the amount of resources which you may have, whether as a president or as a master, or amount of money on your bank account, doesn't really make you powerful. It doesn't really give you the sense of being able to impact neither yourself nor others nor the events around you. So in order to do that, you need to learn control. So essentially, the power comes from learning the awareness, acquiring the awareness, attention, uh, which requires a lot of work, a lot of practice. So I suppose working on concentration, working on attention, learning to focus your mind on things, starting from simple exercises, were my first steps to understand the concept of power. It wasn't just the energy that flows, that you feel, in various parts of the body. It was essentially learning to direct it that gave me the sense of what the power truly is. Because you direct it to self-healing, you direct it to lifting weights, or you direct it to creating good in the world through making money perhaps, and then dedicating this to something. It all comes from ability to control through understanding this world, the directions of what you can do.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, because I think that's the topic, the really topic we have to talk about, the difference between something you can control and something that can create, and something that is not under control, that can destroy everything. Looking at the history, most of the power is destroying everything because it's not under the control of the people, or because this kind of power is only a specific and very little point of view, for example, the point of view of the person and not the point of view of the entire community. For example, we all, when we talk about power, we always talk about some person that has a power, or a small group of people that they have power, and not it's not so usual to talk about, for example, an entire population that has a power. For example, um, and I think that's the difference between a spiritual school where we search for a different kind of power that can be uh, something that can give us um, appeal, um, an effect not only for me, not only for my personal point of view, but for many. This is not easy, and that's why all around the world, also in Damanhur, we chosen to have a specific roles, with to have a specific discipline to educate ourselves before to receive a specific power. I think that's the difference. Um,
Preparation, yes, I would call it to be prepared to
to
then
be
have,
prepared. Yeah,
before you apply, before you actually even receive it, you have to be prepared.
like when you cultivate the ground. So first of all, you have to prepare the ground, and after that,
Exactly.
you
Mm.
can have results. Um, in Damanhur, for example, after Falco passed away, we started to understand how to apply this huge amount of knowledge, but also how to express specific power for the people in order to apply this knowledge in the best way. Do you think that in Damanhur today we are doing enough in order to express this power? Or, what is your experience about this applying of power in Damanhur after Falco passed away? Do you think? What do you think about?
Now, I think the one great thing that I was shocked to actually discover was that in Damanhur, everyone is encouraged to take on multiple roles. And some roles, they come naturally because, well, if you live in the community, you're expected, or you feel like you need to do some things even if you don't love them. I don't know, you need to wash the dishes or clean together with everybody. You need to participate equally in things. And on the other hand, your role, you may be elected to be a governor, to do much bigger things and make decisions on part of a lot of people. But having
Yes,
multiple roles really helps balance, your ego, helps perhaps subdue even the excesses of energy that you cannot handle, that are given to you through one of the roles, with other roles that, create possibility for humility, for modesty. So having that um, applied to almost every single person, at least from the experience that I've had, really helps the power to be in check. To not go too much into your head. So in that sense, yeah, I think it's pretty balanced. I mean, I myself had experienced opportunity to, like, was given a role, let's say, for which I was probably not prepared in many ways, but which gave me a sense of being able to, how to say, have the ear of many people, being able to make decisions, so being able to essentially have a power and exert it upon the decision making, but at the same time doing that with the others. So you didn't feel that this was yours, you felt that this was ours, and you are simply an element that helps direct this power to make something happen. So in that sense, it's quite balanced. I think things can always be perfected. I mean, we are human beings, even in Damanhur.
yes,
And in that sense, I don't think anybody can expect a perfect mechanism. But because one of the tenets, obviously, that you live here, it's learning to be aware, self-awareness, always looking for different ways and using different methods to work on yourself. That helps control how you apply the power you have within the roles much better. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't here when Falco was around. I arrived 2 years later after he passed. So I don't have a comparison point in that sense. But what I discovered here, I think, is what convinced me to stay, because I realized, well, nobody is really using power in an abusive way, that you feel smaller, or that somehow you feel that, well, there is too much of a disbalance. But you can always speak your mind. You can always become part of the group where you feel drawn to, which perhaps, has more power over certain things, over some decisions, over some field, of the community. So the doors are pretty open, so long as, your intention is pure, and, you have the right will. So in that sense, yeah, the freedom, let's say, that socially and that spiritually you experience, I think it's quite wide. I mean, for me, it was definitely a lot more inspiring to see how much power people have individually within the context of a whole community. So you feel empowered. You don't feel that, well, because we are one, somehow you're powerless, just because you're one individual. Quite contrary. So that
Yes.
which you probably feel in the society, that, well, nothing depends from what I say. The masses will elect the president. I don't have a power. My word, my opinion doesn't count. Well, here in the community that the Damanhur has managed to build, the voice does count.
And maybe the a small community is a way to easily be on duty instead to be, the controller or the master, the boss of something. It's easier to be on duty because it's a small community. I'm reading also the question that come from the people. Thank you very much for your questions, and then thank you very much to be here to attend this recording. Nana, you also traveling all around the world, and I think you also encounter people with different needs today. What do you think is the best way to talk about power with the people all around the world? Because everyone is searching for power. We say that everyone is searching for money, but essentially, I think that they search for money because they're searching for power. What do you think can be the right approach to the people, in your experience, in your idea, in order to help people around the world to understand what is the best way to apply power? Because it's easier to say power is dangerous. Okay, it's easier. Power is dangerous. It's something you can deal. It's something you can manage. But I think it's also very important for the people to have some power all around the world today. But maybe to have some power in the right way. What do you think? What do you suggest? Or what you are doing? You are also training people, groups of people. You also move people to Damanhur. I think you understood on the different years, also before of the Damanhur, what is the need of the people about that.
One of the things that is actually interesting with English language, which we don't have in Russian, and probably in Italian, it's also not so problematic, is the word power in English. Actually, it's kind of all encompassing, right? So you think of power as something that, gives you control, that gives you energy. It's everything. In Russian, for example, the power of the government or power of the people, and then the power you feel as an individual, this amount of energy, are two different words.
Oh,
So
great.
essentially, I try to focus people on the fact that, well, having lots of power doesn't mean a power that you exert over everything and everybody. It's not something that elevates you outside, but allows you to feel, first of all, elevated on the inside. So you internalize the power, uh, in order to give you the high quality of life and higher satisfaction. Like, you understand, sure, you want more, but you want more resource. You don't necessarily want to become a president. It's not that everybody seeking power or even seeking money is seeking control over the universe. I mean, there are obviously people like that. So you're able to internalize the lack of something through developing a greater inner force, let's say. And that can be done with many approaches, with many methods. I mean, practice whether it's yoga, meditation, tai chi, or whatever else, is obviously one of them. I mean, it's an important one, because then you start to be more self-aware, so you start to discover different parts of yourself, different voids that you can feel with energy. Experiences that help you do that, through travel. So I've done a lot of travel and organization of trips and big experiences to different places of power, as they're also called, where people can really feel the influx of energies, the influx of emotions, of something new, with which, once they're fulfilled, they start to become more happy, they start to become more diverse. So basically, I'm promoting this idea, I'm proposing to the people that even Damanhur as a place of power, as temples, the source of synchronicity and everything, is simply a tool to be used first for your own personal benefit, for your own evolution, and only then, after you've internalized it, after you've managed to deepen it within yourself, you can start to apply it. But by the time that you actually get to apply it externally, you will have done so much work on the inside that you may actually lose the interest to go out there and apply it as much as you thought you wanted. It's like when you finally have this money on the account, if you have prepared yourself well financially, uh, if you're financially literate, you will not throw this money away or throw it around as you would have if you weren't ready. So it's the same with energy. If you acquired lots of inner power through practice, through some kind of discipline, whatever it may be, it can even be a mental one, you will be a lot more respectful to that power in the way that you apply it to the outside. So you'll get much more freedom of choice as to what you will do. And that idea, helping people live through it, through the experience, through whether it's travel or whether it's few days in Daman, or for the people that come here looking for also for source of inspiration, source of energy, is one way to do it. And of course, doing it together. I mean, one element that I always try to bring to people is that going through these processes as a group, so as a group of friends, or as a community, as a little society, makes this process a lot more expanded. So you get to share that experience that you live with many other people who are going through similar paths, if you are within an energy space. And that only increases the degree of the fulfillment that you can get. So at the end, you may have thought you wanted one thing, but having acquired it, you start to perceive it in a completely different way. So, at the end, you arrive to the power, you arrive to having more resource, and then people feel empowered, but they no longer want to use it as they thought originally they would.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Last question. I think that people all around the world today searching for power, searching for happiness, searching for a sort of freedom. They need to remember that human being has a specific power as a species. It is the free will. In the last Thursday with Stambecco Pesco in the Italian version, we were talking about this need to rediscover all around the world what means free will. What do you think about this specific aspect that is common for everyone? Is the same power that every human being has, and all around the history of humankind was the most important aspect that really changed the world, the free will. What do you think about?
I think the understanding of what free will is, unfortunately, today has not yet, reawakened, has not yet arrived to the people in full sense. I mean,
Correct.
yes, people accept that this is something that is very important, but people rarely understand what it is. So looking for something you don't understand, it's probably quite difficult. In a sense, I would say free will is the ultimate power, because if with your decision, with your willful effort, you can change everything, you can literally uh, acquire the force to withstand any pressure from the outside or to change the course of history, which greater power can you imagine than that? I think before looking for it, before doing something in that direction, it's very useful to bring people's attention, maybe through games, because through this more playful, let's say, approach, to give people a taste of what the free will really is and what free will is not. As I always propose to the guests, as an idea, uh, the type of eggs you chose for breakfast and your ability to make those eggs appear on your plate because in a hotel somebody cooks those eggs is not really the free will. Also because at the end it doesn't give you that level of satisfaction that maybe is a very important parameter. So every time you think you are deciding something, that you're exerting your free will, think of how much energetic return it truly gives you, and then that will give you slowly, step by step, if you do it regularly, a true measure of how free you are and what is it within you that has caused you to want certain things, so to will certain things. It requires awareness, and which again brings us a little bit to the concept of certain discipline and certain consistency. So I think a very good beginning for every individual, or individual on the path of a spiritual school or independently even, would be to find how to say a way to raise self-awareness, to raise the discipline of your own observation on life, to determine how much of your life is really you. And then with every step, with every day that you live, coming to a greater realization of what things you are able to control because you focus, your attention has made them happen, has materialized them, will create a greater awareness of the power you have and will give you a more precise measure of how much power you want, and consequently how that power can arrive to you, through which means, through which methods, in which space, and so on. So it's a learning process. It's a pretty steep learning curve in the beginning because as we know, discipline is not a quality that is embedded in us by the society. Our free will, the random application of free will, on contrary, probably brings us further away from discipline than towards it, unless we decide to do it. So yeah, in that sense, I think the looking for a free will, understanding what it is, does need to start with a lot of attention, with a lot of focus on what you're doing, how you're living, how your thought process even happens inside your head.
Yeah, thank you very much. And also searching for uh, the different talents, the different gifts. In Damanhur, we understood that it's also very important to have a movement, a sort of liquid society where power can rotate between the different people. It means also that if we want to express our free will, we have to handle also the idea of change, movement. Life is not static. Usually, if we look at the history of mankind, the power was applied by specific people for a long time. Uh, we also, for example, in Damanhur, we chosen to, especially for the highest roles of the people, to have, 6 months, 3 months, 1 year, but not to have a long role for the people, because power need to rotate, something that also happened inside of us, inside our specific point of view. I think that the approach you chosen, traveling all around the world, teaching to the people, bringing the people to Damanhur, is also the effect of your long research. You started to do your inner research also before the Damanhur, and you understood that the power is in the center of us. But to be in the center means always to move us every day a little bit, because the center is moving, is not always in
Exactly.
the same place. Thank you very much, Lanario, to be here with us. Your point of view, your ideas are very important, because that's the way we use Damanhur to research, to exchange, to have different point of view together and look at the same problem or to the same topic from different people, from different eyes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
the people that are attend this recording, and see you next month.
All
Con
right.
te, Lanario,
Thank
con
you.
voi.
Thank you.
Bye
Convoy.
bye.